The day my mom dragged me to a blind date, I nearly bolted the second I saw the woman sitting across from me. I figured she would take one look at an unemployed guy like me and walk. But instead she grabbed my arm and pressed me back down into my seat, refusing to let me leave. Everyone assumed she was about to humiliate me publicly. After all, she was never short on wealthy guys chasing after her. But what they had no idea about was that the assets under my name were worth more than most small countries. Just as I was about to come clean about my billion-dollar empire, she leaned in close with a flush on her cheeks and said something in a voice the whole room could hear. My mom was so desperate to get rid of me that she printed 30 copies of my resume and literally set up a booth at the local matchmaking fair to market me like a product. I was completely out of options. So I cleaned myself up and showed up at the restaurant. But the truth was I was anything but unemployed. I had dozens of companies under my name and so much money in my accounts even I had lost count. I had pushed myself so hard the last few years that I nearly worked myself into an early grave. Now all I wanted was to coast and actually enjoy life. But in my mom's eyes, I was just a lazy bum with no job. She threatened to confiscate every single one of my gaming devices if I ruined this date. I was sitting in the restaurant, trying to figure out the cleanest exit strategy, when a cool familiar voice suddenly cut through the air. "Are you Mr. Guyu?" I snapped my head up and completely froze because standing right in front of me was Liu Ruyan. She was the one girl every guy on campus had quietly worshipped, and the woman I had spent 4 full years secretly in love with. I always assumed she had gotten married right after graduation, to my roommate Lin Hao, who drove a sports car. Back then I was just a broke student, and there she was in a simple white dress, looking like she had stepped straight out of a painting. My first instinct was to jump up and run. There was no way I was going to let her see me like this. I would rather drop dead on the spot. But before I could make a move, something grabbed my arm and held on tight. Her hand was slightly cool to the touch. Liu Ruyan just looked at me with that half smile. "Guyu, you run the second you see me? Back when you were drunk? You grabbed my hand in front of everyone and declared you would never marry anyone but me. Where did all that confidence go?" My brain went completely blank. That was the most mortifying thing that ever happened at our graduation dinner. I had been blackout drunk, and my roommates did not let me forget it for an entire year. I assumed she had long forgotten about my embarrassing episode. But then she stepped even closer, warm breath brushing my ear like a feather. "Or maybe you were just scared, afraid I might tell your good buddy Lin Hao all about that 4-year secret crush of yours." I was completely locked in place, could not move a single inch, heart hammering like it was going to bust right through my ribs. Honestly though, who could have predicted my blind date would turn out to be her? This whole situation was absolutely unreal. Now I had to decide whether to keep playing the broke guy, or just come clean and take her back to my 5,000 square foot penthouse. She sat me back down like I was a kid who had done something wrong, and just tilted her head and watched me, that little smile of hers making my pulse go haywire. I sat there not knowing what to do with my hands. She slid the menu over to me, and asked what I wanted to drink. My throat had completely dried up. All I could manage was asking for plain water. She broke into the biggest smile, said my face turned just as red as she remembered. I wanted to disappear off the face of the earth. I forced myself to explain that was just drunk talk, and begged her not to take any of it seriously. She raised an eyebrow and shot back, "So the 4 years you secretly had feelings for me were fake too?" I had absolutely nothing to say to that. I genuinely wanted to disappear into the floor. She dropped the smile and asked what I was up to these days. I stuck to the script and said I was between jobs. I expected her to get up and leave, but her eyes went soft and she said, "Taking a break when work burns you out is perfectly fine." That logic honestly broke my brain. Then she leaned in and lowered her voice, and asked if I thought this was fate. Since both our families were pressuring us to settle down, maybe we should just try dating. Give everyone something to stop worrying about. If it does not work out, we could walk away anytime. My brain had not even caught up, when my mouth just went and said yes. One look at that smug, satisfied little expression on her face, and I knew I had walked right into her trap. She was already waving her phone, calling me her boyfriend. That word sent a tingle straight through me. I finally worked up the nerve to ask about Lin Hao. She looked me dead in the eye and laid it out flat. There was never anything between them, and told me to stop letting my imagination run wild. The weight I had been carrying finally lifted. So all those years I had been tormenting myself for absolutely nothing. She naturally linked her arm through mine, and insisted we go on our first date right then. That gardenia scent drifting right into my nose. I was practically floating. I could not believe this kind of luck was actually happening to me. Now the only thing spinning in my head was whether to just take her back to the mansion right now, or keep playing the broke act a little longer. I stood there stiff as a board, as Liu Ruyan pulled me out of the restaurant and shoved me straight into her Maserati. My mind was completely blank. She started the engine and casually dropped the words, "My place." I nearly choked on my own spit. Was this timeline not moving a little fast? We had been together for all of 1 hour, but she just rolled her eyes at me, and said her cat was sick and she could not handle it alone. She needed an extra set of hands. I felt a wave of relief, and also somehow weirdly a little let down. She drove smoothly out front, sunlight landing perfectly on that profile of hers. She looked almost too good to be real. I was just sitting there staring, when she suddenly asked without even turning her head, "Nice view, huh?" I snapped my eyes away in a panic, heart going absolutely wild. She brought up college, mentioned I had won a gold award in programming, and that professors had called me a once-in-a-generation talent. My stomach did a little flip. That was just me messing around to make my first real money. Once the company got off the ground, I quietly buried all of it. Before long, the car pulled into an elite gated community. The security there was enough to make anyone nervous. I took one look at the Liu family estate, and thought to myself, yeah, this family runs deep. The moment we walked in, she shouted at the top of her lungs, "Mom, I brought my boyfriend home." There was a loud crash. Her dad's teacup had shattered on the floor. I stood there completely dumbfounded. We had only agreed to give it a try. How were we already meeting the parents? Her mom was staring at me, like I was some priceless family heirloom, and immediately started asking where I worked. Liu Ruyan jumped in to cover for me, said I was in the middle of launching my own venture. Right in the middle of that awkward moment, my phone went absolutely nuclear. It was my overachieving assistant Chen, I answered with a stone face. The voice on the other end was shaking with excitement. Boss, that Nordic company just locked down the lithography machine technology. Now they are facing antitrust action, I answered flatly. Got it. For something this minor, just send a message. Do not call me when something important is happening. But Chen refused to hang up, and said the restaurant we had been at earlier apparently offended one of my guests. So he had gone ahead and bought the entire restaurant group, and was now asking if I wanted him to tear it down and rebuild. I rubbed my temples and told him off. Do not do anything without my say-so. I am in the middle of a date, but when I turned around, Liu Ruyan was leaning against the balcony door, eyes full of something I could not quite read. She strolled over and asked, "Since when does my unemployed boyfriend deal in lithography machine companies?" And casually buy restaurant chains on the side. I had absolutely no way out of this one. So now the question was, do I keep spinning a story or just come clean and take her back to the mansion? The way Liu Ruyan was looking at me, like I was something she had stepped in. She came strutting into the bedroom in designer clothes, right in front of my current girlfriend, and pointed her finger in my face, calling me a worthless loser, saying someone who got dumped and had nothing going for him. Was nothing but a pretty face conning women out of their feelings. I just stood there with a cold smile. In my head, I was thinking about my few $100 billion and the lithography tech company I had just acquired. One phone call from me and Liu Ruyan's entire family would be bankrupt by morning. But before I could even make a move, Su Qingqian stepped right in front of me. She locked her arm through mine and held on tight. The energy she gave off dropped the temperature in the entire room instantly. She said, "This is my man, and I dare anyone here to say one more word about him." Liu Ruyan turned green with rage, still going off at the mouth, saying I was a dead end and would drain whoever stayed with me dry. Su Qingqian did not hesitate for even a second. She clapped back hard and fast. She said, "First of all, Gu Yu is not unemployed. Second, even if he were, I could take care of him just fine. And third, he is the man I chose. Even at his worst, he is still my everything. So you do not get to stand here and talk down about him. Now get out of here before I make you." Watching Liu Ruyan slink out with her tail between her legs, I finally felt that burning frustration drain right out of me. Being defended by an absolute goddess like that felt 1,000 times better than winning any award, earlier in the bedroom helping give the cat its medicine. Su Qingqian had leaned in close and whispered that she had already noticed my abs, and told me going forward I was only allowed to show them to her. My brain completely short-circuited. This woman was no cool, untouchable goddess. She was pure trouble wrapped in a pretty face. I took a look at the ragdoll cat lying there all lethargic, ran my hand over its little round belly, and said it was just a seasonal stomach upset, something I knew inside and out. Seeing as I had a private exotic pet sanctuary with dozens of rare breeds from around the world, all cared for by a top-tier veterinary team, once the cat had its medicine, and I watched it start to perk back up. Su Qingqian looked at me with eyes full of warmth. She took my hand and said thank you, watching her stand up for me against her ex. Whatever was left of my desire to just coast through life died completely in that moment. The girl I had quietly loved for 4 straight years actually stood up for me like that. For a woman who looked at me like I was her whole world, I was done hiding. I was going to stop playing the broke act. And everything I had built, I was going to lay it all at her feet with my own hands. Now I just want to ask everyone, when Liu Ruyan shows up at tomorrow's top-tier business gala and sees me sitting at the head of the table, what kind of expression is she going to make? All because his ex called me a worthless loser, the pack of unhinged assistants I have working under me, wiped out every single share her family owned overnight. Honestly, the whole thing is still kind of wild to me. Earlier at dinner at the villa, my future mother-in-law was basically trying to load my entire plate with the whole roast pig. And with my hard-earned 8-pack abs to think about, I just had to grit my teeth and keep eating. Su Qingqian sat beside me, barely hiding her laughter, and made it worse by saying a guy with a big appetite is easy to keep. After dinner, she insisted on driving me home herself. The moment I settled into the passenger seat of her Maserati, my mom started blowing up my phone. First thing out of her mouth was demanding to know what my date looked like. I lowered my voice and said, "She is literally driving me home right now." The next second, the other end of the line exploded. My mom was so hyped she practically blew the roof off, screaming that the Gu family had finally turned its luck around. I was so mortified I could have melted through the floor of the car. I held the phone as far from my ear as possible. Su Qingqian turned her head with a startled look, asking what was going on. I could only give an awkward laugh and say my mom was just really excited about me finally being off the market. She gave a very earnest nod and said, "We should make a proper visit to meet your parents soon." The car pulled up outside my building. I sat there looking at her soft profile, fighting hard against the urge to lean over and kiss her. I gave her a wave and told her to drive safe, barely made it back inside and locked the door. When my phone started going crazy, Assistant Chen sent a long, detailed report, saying the Liu Family Corporation was now under full investigation for suspected predatory business practices. Their stock had evaporated by 30% overnight, and Liu Ruyan was running around frantic, desperately begging anyone who would listen for help.